Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, that comes to us from World War I, from Siegfried Sassoon. The poem in discussion today will be called Absolution. And especially when talking about Siegfried Sassoon, one of the things that we have to One of the things that we have to consider is the duality of words, the intent behind words, how it is that words are said, not just what words were used. And that is certainly, I think, the case with the poem Absolution. Absolution reads as such. The anguish of the earth absolves our eyes till beauty shines in all that we can see. War is our scourge, yet war has made us wise. And fighting for our freedom, we are free. Horror of wounds and anger at the foe and loss of things desired, all these must pass. We are the happy legion, for we know time's but a golden wind that shakes the grass. There was an hour when we were loath to part from life we longed to share no less than others. Now, having claimed this heritage of heart, what need we more, my comrades and brothers? Like I said, as often is the case with poetry, what we have to do, the question here, in fact, is the question of irony. Is this poem to be read ironic, or is this poet making the case for war? He's sure taken a Shakespearean swing at things. I think that in just reading this, it gives you a bit of the gusto, it works up some of the welly, and you are taken a little bit aback at the images given to us and the ideas behind those words. And it's hard, I think, to really make the case for an ironic reading simply when presented with this poem. I think that there are hints that will lead us in that direction, but we have to really put the work in as a critic. The anguish of the earth absolves our eyes. What is the absolution from anguish? What is that going to do? And how is it going to lead to beauty shining in all that we see? War is our scourge, yet war has made us wise. Now, if you just look at that line, sure, when you think about it, there is obviously, I would say, I would argue, I would contend some type of irony behind it. War is our scourge, yet war has made us wise. How could something that is a scourge, not a challenge, a scourge, made us wise? But when you look at all of the driving forces that surround war, and you really examine the things that come from war, there are things which help us in everyday life. Now, this would have been way before this point, but radar comes from war. Basically, cell phone technology comes from the Cold War. All of myriad things. Was it plastics? Basically come from war. So all of these sorts of things are nuclear energy, are things which have sprung forth from breakthroughs during a war, technologies wrought from attempting to kill other people more effectively and efficiently. So, when thinking about the words at play, yeah, it sounds ironic there. It sounds like an ironic use of the word wisdom, well, wise, but wisdom. However, at the base level of things, and this is something that Siegfried Sassoon, this is knowledge to which Siegfried Sassoon would have been privy. Lots of useful things come from that ramping up of wanting to kill other people. It is a sad effect, right? But there are efficiencies, one, in war that translate to manufacturing. There are technologies that spring up simply from wanting to be able to find the other people and kill them. All of these things. So it's hard. What I'm saying here is, and fighting for our freedom, we are free. If you just listen to that line, it makes you want to fight, doesn't it? It is something that sort of undercarries the compulsion to be free. The idea that, so the idea which has become cliche in today's world that freedom is not free. Freedom is the product, not the process. The process is very difficult. So it's there is an ironic reading there. You just have to make it. But maybe it's not an ironic reading. Maybe Siegfried Sassoon had penned this poem in order that the true gusto of war be known. The ideas that all of these things for which we are fighting in earnest. After all, let's read another poem from the era, The Soldier by Rupert Brooke. The Soldier by Rupert Brooke reads as such. If I should die, think only this of me, that there's some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. There shall be in that rich earth a richer dust concealed, a dust whom England bore, shaped, made aware, gave once her flowers to love, her ways to roam, a body of England's breathing English air, washed by the rivers, blessed by sons of home. And think this heart, all evil shed away, a pulse in the eternal mind no less, gives somewhere back the thoughts by England given. Her sights and sounds, dreams happy as her day, and laughter learnt of friends, and gentleness in hearts at peace under an English heaven. That from Rupert Brooke is not written, I would dare say, with an ironic intent. It is saying, if they kill me on some field and I dissolve into the land, that corner of that field will be England forever. It's a thought that makes you, it's a thought that hardens one's intent, I think. Look, this country, all the people I know, all the people I love, I'm willing to fight for them. And when I die, if it's over there, kind of we won. Because that means that little corner of that field, that's ours, baby. But I don't think that Absolution is written in this tone. I think Absolution is written closer to the tone that we normally get from Siegfried Sassoon, and I want to read you another poem from Siegfried Sassoon that is a little more explicit than implicit. It's called They. The bishop tells us when the boys come back, they will not be the same, for they'll have fought in a just cause. They lead the last attack on Antichrist. Their comrades' blood has bought new right to breed an honorable race. They have challenged death and dared him face to face. We're none of us the same, the boys reply, for Jim lost both his legs and Bill's stone blind. Poor Jim shot through the lungs and like to die, and Bert's gone syphilitic. You'll not find a chap who served that hasn't found some change. And the bishop said, The ways of God are strange. The ways of God are strange. This is a standpoint often ridiculed by the atheist contention. The ways of God are strange. Well, need they be? Need George to have lost both his legs? Need Bill to have gone stone blind? Need Jim to be shot through the lungs? Need Bert to have gone syphilitic? And why? If you authored all that is, why does it have to be strange? Why couldn't it just make sense? After all, someone authoring a poem is a little bit indebted to his or her reader. Someone who has authored a poem or a novel, it should make sense to the audience. Oftentimes a movie, if the entire audience sees it and is a little bit confused at the end, it's deemed not a success, right? If the whole audience is leaving the theater and saying to each other, "What the hell just happened?" Not normally a success. So, let's go back to Absolution. Listen to it in one ear, like the soldier, and listen to it in the other ear, like they. The anguish of earth absolves our eyes till beauty shines in all that we can see. War is our scourge, yet war has made us wise. And, fighting for our freedom, we are free. Horror of wounds and anger at the foe, and loss of things desired, all these must pass. We are the happy legion, for we know time's but a golden wind that shakes the grass. There was an hour when we were loath to part from life we longed to share no less than others. Now, having claimed this heritage of heart, what need we more, my comrades and my brothers? I have said in no shortage of videos before this that one of my favorite things about the trench poet movement was the fact that they were so piss and vinegar, was the fact that they were able to look around them and notice, yeah, we've got a lot of responsibility here. But the responsibility itself is kind of confusing. We're fighting for freedom, which on the surface of both of those words feels confusing. We're fighting for our home, but we're fighting for our home in another country. We didn't choose these enemies. These enemies didn't particularly choose us. None of us who are here fighting were the ones who started the fight. And they were able to acknowledge all of these things while Siegfried Sassoon was a decorated war hero, was decorated for bravery. Siegfried Sassoon also, I believe, the longest living of the trench poets. He died in the late 60s, born in 1886. 1885, 1886. 1886. Ezra Pound, I think, was 1885. So this movement, during a time of such incredible nationalism, was a movement from the people upon whom nationalism was thrust. So, these were the people forced to do the dirty work, speaking against the dirty work, still holding the ideas of the nationalism to some extent, to be able to perform in war and be decorated for bravery. You have to understand that there is some underlying merit to what's going on. I think that there is no shortage of interesting facets about the trench poets, about the poems from these poets, about the dynamics of the world in which these poems were wrought. In the poem Absolution, I don't think is any exception to that. In the fact that absolution is, on a base level, on a sight level, on a first reading level, so convincingly filled with the ideas of responsibility and resolution, simply add to that. That's all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like this sort of thing, it really helps me out here on the channel if you hit that like button. If you are here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to make sure that these videos keep getting suggested to you by YouTube. I do poetry discussions, I do poetry reviews, I do short story discussions, short story reviews, novel read-alongs, writer's quotes, videos with the opening paragraph of pieces, things like all of these. And I hope to have you back for the next video.